We should wait, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's wait a few minutes so everyone can join us.
But if you guys have everything ready, so the jury will do a presentation and then you can. Sorry.
Give me 1 minute. I will try to reach Tijo and the other guys.
Guys, I'm gonna actually switch to my laptop, so I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay, no problem.
Go.
Hey, Tijo. I can see you, but you're muted, I think.
Hey guys, good afternoon.
Here you go. How are you?
Wanting to do way too much in the last minute.
Always happen.
Way too much. Yeah, I'm sure.
Where are your
but that's
teammates?
also kind of the thrill of it.
Okay, Andres is joining. You are 3 team members, right, Tijo?
Yeah. Andres,
right.
Tijo,
We're still missing Chris. Yeah.
All right.
And Andres, I think. Yeah.
Here we have
Chris is lagging a lot. They'll be here in a second.
Hey, Chris.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
So 1 more minute. We have to wait for Calvin and Andres, and we're done. Hello, Andres.
Hey, everybody.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay, so maybe we can start doing just a quick presentation or introduction to this demo day thing while we wait for Calvin. Okay, we're already recording. So this, thank you very much for everyone for being here. This is a new edition of our demo day presentation hangout, we can say. Just as a quick introduction so everyone knows what this demo day thing is. All these guys have been learning Python with us in our remote Python course during around 2 months, I think, 1.5 months. And the idea of this demo day project is to kind of wrap up the whole knowledge they got in the course by building a real-life application. They were supposed to pick like a real-life problematic and find a solution and develop an application that solves that particular problem. For that, there were some restrictions. One of them is that they were supposed to work in groups, of course. They had to assemble their own groups, and also another restriction is that they have to use at least one external service or API. That, you know, there are a lot of available APIs and services out there in the internet. They were supposed to pick one and use them in the application they are building. So with these 2 main restrictions, they had 3 weeks where they were supposed to hard work until they have a well-polished version of their solution. The solution is supposed to be working it's supposed to be deployed. I think Tijo, their team, they had some problems with the deployment. It's not an issue, but they were supposed to be deployed, and well tested, documented, all that stuff. They were supposed to write the whole scope of the application beforehand. So before starting these 3 weeks, they had to give us a document where they were saying, okay, we are going to do this and that, but not that thing, for example. They have to write down the whole list of features the application is going to solve. The idea of that is that we are also evaluating their capability of estimation, because being a developer, we believe that being a developer is not just writing code, but there are a lot of more things that they are more complicated for us. For example, dealing with more people, dealing with teammates, dealing with, I don't know, estimation is a big deal, and all these kind of soft things that some of the times are more complicated than the code itself. So, making this small introduction, as the students don't know the jury members and the jury members don't know the student, we're going to take 2 minutes and make a quick introduction of ourselves. The idea of the jury is that they're going to hear your presentations and they are going to provide you with valuable feedback and questions about your solution. All right? Any questions so far? No questions. So let's make a quick introduction of ourselves. I think all of you guys know me and Santiago, so let's just skip us. Who wants to start? All the jury and the students, please all make a small introduction, just which is your name, what do you do, where are you from, and anything you want to share with us.
Okay, I can start.
No, I could start.
Sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Go ahead,
So my name is Tijo. I'm from Holland, and I live in Mexico City. I have been living here for 3 years now. I teach here, but I have a background in healthcare, in healthcare policy making. What I would like to do is go more into the technological part of healthcare, and that is why this is pretty important for me. I do not have that much experience in programming, but I have learned a crazy amount in the last 1.5 months, so hopefully it shows.
Thank you, Tijo.
Okay, I can go next. My name is Andres. I'm from Chile. I currently work at a software company giving support, and my idea is to move on to the development team. So that's why I took this course, and I've been trying to work on projects and just get used to the way to work on code, so I can prove myself to them and move to that team. So yeah, that's the main goal.
I guess I can go next. My name's Chris. I'm born and raised in New York. I graduated college about a year ago, and I worked in tech sales and a variety of other jobs doing project management. And taking this course, I also hope to springboard to a more dev-oriented job. I would like to be a junior Python developer in a couple months, and working on this project really helped a lot in terms of, I guess, figuring out the workflow of what it's like to be an engineer.
Thank you, Chris.
That's it.
Calvin?
Hey guys, my name's Calvin. I'm from New Jersey. I worked in finance for a few years, didn't like it, and kind of wanted to go into the programming route. And Python was a good start for me because I'm pretty interested in both data analysis and web dev. So it's a good kind of branch off point to go into those two fields. And yeah, I'm just learned a lot from rmotr, from Santiago and Martin, the guys, and excited to show you guys what we've been working on.
Thank you, Calvin. So Dave, I think you're the last one, right?
Yeah. My name is Dave. I'm from, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, up here in the States, and I work in data science. I work for a government organization where I basically just do statistics, and I work in SQL a lot all day. And so my goal was to learn a lot of Python. And now I'm actually learning R too, so that's kind of where I've been and where this is moving into. So we try to incorporate more stats work and analysis in our project.
Cool. Thank you, Dave. Okay, so these are our students. Now the jury members. Ezequiel?
Hi, hello.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Okay. Hi to everyone. I am Ezequiel Perez. I am from La Plata. La Plata is the capital city of the capital province of Argentina. I am a kid programmer. I have a little dog called Boris. He's a little demon. And my technical background is about Java, deployment, and architecture. Also, I am a certified project manager, and my current job is about project consulting. Basically, my work is about the integration and define the policies and KPIs, key performance indicators, to ensure the project delivers. I'm very happy to stay online with you, and let me say one word about your instructors. They are amazing persons.
No, please don't.
Don't be shy, please.
Thank you, Ezequiel. Julian?
Hi, my name is Julian. I live in La Plata. That's in Argentina, of course. And I am systems engineer. And I am currently working as a freelance web stack developer, working in technologies like Django, Angular, and maybe every other technology for web, like PHP or Ruby sometimes.
Thank you, Julian. So guys, these two men here, they are awesome developers, they are awesome software engineers, professional from the IT. So please try to get as much feedback as you can from them. So I think we are ready to go. Who wants to start the presentation?
You can go, it's no problem.
No one. Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. You guys will see that it's the address for the app right now is, I'll post it in the chat. We did not spring for a custom domain or expensive hosting. Okay, and here we go. Can you guys see my screen and everything?
Yep, I can.
Yeah. So what our idea for the app was to kind of use Yelp and Google APIs in order to grade the takeout in a given area. So what we ask for from the user is their address, and then from there we convert that address into latitude longitude using Google geocoding. Then we search for the 40 nearby restaurants on Yelp, and then with those restaurant returns included in that is the latitude longitude of those. We then use the Google Distance Matrix API to gather the actual drive times in order the travel times to get there. We do it 3 times. We get your walking travel times, your driving travel times, and your driving travel times in traffic. And then what we did was we sourced crime data, and this only works for the U.S. by the way, guys. I'm sorry, but the crime data from the FBI here, we have crime data on. It's a voluntary response, so it's not always that accurate, but it's kind of all we had. And then we also use a statistic called land use mix, which grades how different land is in an area. So if residential, if a given area, we use zip code is what we had it at. So if in a given zip code, if you have a lot of residential, industrial, and commercial properties all in this zip code, then you'll have closer to a 1. And then if you're all residential or all commercial, then you're closer to a 0. The reason we did this is because there's a lot of literature on health, and walkability is kind of the term used. and land use mix is positively correlated and pretty well correlated too. So it's kind of our best guess as to whether or not there are sidewalks or whether or not you're walking on main roads, and if it's a long distance and kind of unsuited for walking. So what we do is we ask for a address, so I'll put in mine. See, it's right there. I live in Decatur, Georgia, which is in Atlanta. Then from here, what we do is we make it so you can't submit multiple times. Martine saw we had a little problem with that. And then this is the return the user's given. So this is their located address. It's from Google. So if you give us, you could, real quick, I'll come back here. If I just said Decatur like this and gotten rid of my zip code, and it'll search Google, and it'll use the same searching terms that Google uses when you use the Google Maps. So it's pretty responsive, and it's it grabs a lot of things, and you see, and it found the same place. So we have the number of reviewed restaurants as well as the average rating and the total reviews, and we grade that on its own, the quality. So this gets a C+. The gradings that we've given, actually, the C+, the C-, and the F, they're still being tweaked, and we're still trying to work on figuring out the best way to do that. But we feel like it's pretty accurate right now. You see, I live in a pretty mixed area. It's not too bad, but we're in the 83rd highest percentile for both property and violent crime. So it's a pretty unsafe area, and that's accurate. The walking time it takes to get there is 53.4 minutes, and right below it you see we've created a box plot, box and whisker plot, that shows the minimum time, the maximum time, and the second and third quartiles. I'm sorry, this is the first quartile and fourth quartile, and then the mean. And so this just kind of gives you an idea of the distribution of walk times. Most of the places around me are going to take between 45 minutes to 75 minutes. And there's only 4 restaurants in 1 mile of me. As far as drivability, it takes 9.1 minutes to get to most places, with between 3.6 and 4.5. And then we gave the map of all of the points that we're looking at right here. And so you see they're pretty close, but it's pretty spread out in Atlanta. And then we listed all of the Yelp returns here per the display requirements of Yelp. And so that's kind of it. We it works for any area in the United States. What we try to do is we give all of the information that we use, and so we weight the amount of time it takes to get there and the amount of places within you for walking pretty highly. And since it's all pretty bad here, as well as bad crime and only a pretty good mix, we graded it an F, and that's pretty accurate. I wouldn't walk anywhere for food near me. You pretty much only got to drive, and even driving, it's not the best. Traffic isn't too bad, but it's a pretty shady neighborhood, and so with drivability, we kind of looked at violent and property crime. So that's kind of how we got to right now, and this is everything we said we'd have in our scope. We have some ideas for how we'd improve it. Part of it is we wanted to get a kind of a distribution in the U.S., and so what we did was we grabbed about 8,000 random points in the U.S., and we were going to run them through the system and just kind of see how the distributions worked out in order to adjust the grading so that we had something that, the ability to get an A and that sort of thing. We also saw that property crime and violent crime aren't really the best indications of is it good to walk or drive. Included in that is also the motor vehicle thefts, larceny, and robbery statistics, and so we think those are a little bit more accurate. And so in the future, we'll probably look into improving that. And so I was in charge of the back end. Calvin and I worked together through most of it, but it was really me that coded a lot of it, and Calvin did all of the flasks. So Calvin, do you want to talk about the flask at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much to talk about, but I would like to add that the crime data and the land use mix data were.
There is a huge echo.
Yeah. Can you please, guys, mute your mic if you're not talking, so we don't hear the echo in the background?
Okay. Yeah, so the only thing I really want to add, I guess, is that Dave and I actually downloaded all the crime data and the land use mix data from government census websites, and we actually sifted through those the data and kind of organized it and then uploaded them onto a Postgres database. So the data is being queried off that database based on the zip code of the address that the user input. I mean, besides that, there's not too many other things that we incorporated from Flask that was too complicated. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, we're happy to take them.
I have one question because I remember that you were having some issues with the UI layout, and now that I see it, it's like you ended up with a really well polished UI. How did you handle that?
So we used Bootstrap. The cover page is just like a template we found online and just kind of took. The scores page, I actually wrote most of the custom HTML and CSS for using Bootstrap's grid system, and then like the coloring and the sections and the individual divs and the containers were I just kind of hacked together the best I could, a template that looked decent. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Guys, any questions?
Yeah, can I make
remember? Sure, Juli.
Okay. Can you please try an address from New York, maybe, or a place where there are too many places from Yelp?
So yeah, so while Dave does that, Yelp actually limits the amount of results it gives. So Yelp, if you just sort by what Yelp considers like the best restaurants near you, you can get a maximum of 20, and then you can get an additional 20 for up to a total of 40 if you want to sort by either rating or by distance. So we chose to sort by distance to get a total of 40 results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question, please.
So this is New York. Actually, this is right in Times Square. And the problem with Times Square, I think, is that the land use mix is very low, and the violent crime is huge in New York, and so everything kind of gets hit pretty hard there. But you know, it shows that everything's really close. It's a close, you know, the longest you're going to walk is 23 minutes. Driving in bad traffic is really bad, though. I mean, it's not a good city to drive in. So this is what we were kind of getting at, that the weights aren't exactly perfect on our functions and our you know, calculation of the grade, but it's part of where we'd like to improve with more data.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to see if the site was maybe slow when there are too many data.
Oh yeah, so it's low. It's limited actually at only 40 restaurants. So it's pretty much gonna, and they'll find all 40 every time. So it's pretty much gonna be the same speed, regardless of the place you enter. Or faster, really. This is the slowest you're going to run into.
Okay.
Ezequiel, did you have a question?
Yeah, please. Can you tell me about the develop process, about the day-to-day? How did you coordinate the process? How to propose a mock-up for a UE? How did you test the UX?
Yeah, so for the process, what we started doing was first we brainstormed together what problems we'd like to do, and once we kind of understood it, we liked the idea of grading takeout, and so we started looking at. I have a background in economics and research, and so we started doing, you know, just kind of looking at what's out there, walk scores, and one of the things we noticed, and I have it right here, is that there is a company that develops a walk score, a walkability rating. They're based out of Seattle, Washington, and they're pretty good, but they're criticized for not having an idea of are there sidewalks, and they also are criticized for not incorporating crime. Right here, they talk about that, and so that's kind of where we decided, well, maybe we could improve on that, and so we started looking at how do you account for sidewalks, which is when we found, if you come to our website, the About has these 3 journals is really what we started looking at, where they were using land use mix in order to rate the, kind of the walkability. And so then we kind of knew we were going to look at that. And so we started doing that and looking at the APIs available and just playing around with that. To do the UI, we actually got on, what was it, draw.io, Calvin, I think it was.
Yeah, we used a public, yeah.
Yeah, we used an open source browser-based collaborative art board, basically, and we just both kind of drew what we imagined and then talked about the best way to do it. I don't actually remember where that is right now. I'll have to look through to see our kind of our process board of that. But we had a couple of ideas, and what we landed on, how it finally ended up, is pretty close to how we wanted it, actually. And it was just the colors that ended up being tweaked, but the layout, the 3 panels, the top panel followed by the map and the reviews, that was we envisioned that and kind of designed that ourselves, along with the front page, the idea of a city background and the text above like we wanted to go simple and streamlined without a lot of clutter and things like that.
Okay, great. Keep it short. How did you solve the mismatch between CSS and Android Explorer or Microsoft Edge?
Say that again?
Yeah, sorry, could you say that one more time?
Sorry?
Repeat the question.
Okay. How did you solve the mismatch between CSS, Bootstrap, Internet Explorer, or Chrome? Between many browsers.
Yeah, I know that's a common issue when it comes to doing web design. But it was because I didn't really know any like HTML and CSS from the beginning. I didn't try to focus on getting it to be perfect on each browser. So it's not a problem, I guess, that's completely solved. I just, for the most part, I kind of relied on Bootstrap to take care of most of kind of like the responsive issues. But yeah, that's something that definitely could improve, and something we didn't try to focus on too much.
We liked the way it ended up coming out on the iPhone. We were pleased with that, with the mobile. But down here, this could have been made better. But
yeah. As far as the responsiveness, yeah, it could still use a lot of work. But like I said, it was a hack job. I just hacked together a job the best I could.
Perfect. So let me ask just one more question, so we give the art team the opportunity to present during the same time. Which was the most challenging thing that you faced during the development of the application? If there is any, I don't know.
Calvin, do you want to?
I don't know. I'm thinking.
I'd say that part of for us was probably getting the UI was really hard to decide on, and we went back and forth for a long time on that, and then how to actually build the analysis too, which is always kind of tricky. And I still don't think we've found the best way, or we've totally agreed on how the best way to represent grade, walkability, and everything, which has kind of just been a hard thing to do. But I think we're pretty pleased with the way it came out for now.
Yeah, I think overall, Dave and I both agree that we both agree where improvements need to be made. But I think us working together, we did a pretty good job at solving the problems we had to a certain extent. So yeah, like you said, we're pretty happy with the result over the short couple weeks we had.
Yeah, identifying our strengths and our individual weaknesses too, like where we're good at, and dividing our work, along those lines. We did well with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Anything else, guys? Any questions? Any feedback before we move to the next team?
Yeah, just one thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think you could use the browser latitude and longitude in the first screen instead of typing the address, maybe.
You mean like auto-detecting the location using the browser?
Yeah, the location using the browser as an alternative. Okay.
Ezequiel?
Yeah, a little question first. Did you consider us launch this as a product?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. Do you consider launch this as a product to in a market?
Oh, so me and Dave were actually just joking about this earlier today. So there's an issue right now where the Google geocoding API basically charges us after on a daily basis after 2,500 requests, and because we're passing through 40 Yelp restaurants,
it adds up quickly.
It adds up pretty quickly because we're tracking walkability, drivability, and drivability in good traffic and bad traffic. So that ends up being 120 separate calls.
So what we've worked out is every time after those 2,500, every time a user makes a request or submission, it costs about 6 cents. And so we've been talking about ways we could cut that down, and we've worked it down to we could, if we reduce the number of restaurants to 20, we could use because the nice thing about the Google distance matrix is that it doesn't return a distance that is as the crow flies. I mean, it's more how long does it take in actual traffic, and so that's a really good information to have, and it's important. But once we have that, we can estimate, how will bad traffic be and how will walking be. And so what we were thinking is we can cut it down to 20 if we reduce the number of restaurants and estimate walking and bad traffic. We could cut it down to 20 requests per search, which would then cost per user 1 cent, which isn't too bad. Which we think that with AdSense we might actually be able to break even on that. Though we aren't totally sure about that, and we're not entirely willing to risk it.
Sorry, one question. Every time you type an address and hit enter, in the Django part of your system, how many API calls are being made?
We make one API call to get your latitude, longitude, one API call to get, or 2 API calls for all Yelp results, and then we make 3 distance matrix API calls, and then we make 2 database queries in order to get the Yelp, or in order to get the crime and land use mix information.
Okay. Have you considered to use maybe a cache mechanism?
Considered using, I'm sorry, what?
Cache. Yeah.
Caching
cache. Yeah, cache, yes. We did think about that. Part of the problem with that is Yelp has said that you cannot store any of the Yelp data.
Yeah, exactly. And the same for Google. You cannot.
Yeah. So what we were thinking though is maybe rather than storing all those results, we could store the analysis portion of it. So what gets returned to the user. We think that might be a little bit of a loophole since it's none of their data, it's just an analysis on that data, in which case we would reduce that down to pretty much just getting the Yelp stuff, which doesn't actually have a limit, in which case, if you had a malicious user who was just entering the same address over and over again, you would be able to prevent that from draining your API quotas. But it still doesn't resolve, the general. If we just have multiple unique users, it's still, that wouldn't really resolve it. Especially since the Google Matrix API is a point-to-point traffic. It follows roadways, which we couldn't really, gather points and then extrapolate for other users. It wouldn't other points, you know, wouldn't really work like that. We decided.
Yeah. I think if you are going to launch this as a product, as Skill said, yeah, I think you should consider this.
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap up. I'd like to say just a few last words about the project. You know, this is kind of exact the thing that we were expecting from you in the demo day project, because it's a really small application. It's solving one particular problem, but it's really well polished, and you have covered all the details, and you have developed all the things that you have written in your scope. So just like to congratulate you guys, because you did a great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. You guys taught us well.
Congratulations. Great exercise.
All right, so next thing. You have a height barrier now.
All right, so I'll just share my screen right now.
Do you have maybe a link? Or
well, I think the application is now deployed, right?
Yeah, well, we're not deployed at the moment, so we're running everything from localhost at the moment.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, so the name of our application is Spotifest, and we came up with the idea because we wanted, and we're all music lovers in this team, and we wanted a better way of socially gathering your friends together to share music tastes and kind of serendipitously come up with like a new playlist in kind of a form of a festival. Originally we called it Festify, but unfortunately that name was taken by another app, so we settled on Spotifest. And we're taking data. How we're creating these festivals is that we're taking data from the Spotify API. So the user logs in through using their Spotify credentials, and we take their user preferences based on the artists they follow, the artists they listen to based on their saved tracks, and also artists that are found in the playlist that they have saved. And we take all these preferences and we put it into a container that's provided by another API that we're using called EchoNest. And EchoNest is a music technology company that was actually acquired by Spotify a few years ago, but they basically have just repositories of music metadata, anything from album names, blog entries, things like that, to like music quality, such as like what key a song is in, the tempo of the song, and also arbitrary metrics did come up with, such as like the liveness of a music, which measures to what degree the music sounds like it's coming from an outside environment based on the sound of the audience, or the hotness of the music, which is just how mainstream it is. So using all of these parameters that are offered to us by EchoNest, they have this object called a catalog, where you can put in music data, in our case, artists, and we put into this container, which can be remixed into a playlist algorithmically on their backend using their API. And we generate a whole playlist of, at the moment, 50 songs based on certain parameters that we allow our users to set based on such things like I mentioned, like hotness or danceability of songs. And then we create a playlist for them on Spotify, which they can share with their friends. And basically how it works is like, if you've ever played like an MMORPG, it's basically someone creates a festival. Well, first they log in using their Spotify credentials. So it's using authentication to log in, and I already have my credentials saved, so it kind of just redirect me to the home page. And you can see here that you have the ability to create a new festival, which is basically a room where you can invite other people to join, and then you can join a pre-existing festival. And how you join another festival, another room, is that once you create a festival, there's like a 6 or 7 digit access code to this room that's generated, and you just plug that into join festival if you want to join that room later. And so what happens when you create a festival is that all your music preferences from your Spotify account, since I'm logged in as a Spotify user, is imported into this room, into a catalog that's assigned to this room. So if I click Create Festival, I'm going to be taken to the festival page. And it takes a bit because we're making active calls to Echo Nest as well as Spotify to get all the user preferences. But we've tried to speed up the performance by making certain things asynchronous. Oh, no, that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, that always happens. We feel you, Chris. We've been there.
Did you make any change
before
the last minute?
Do not deploy on Fridays.
This is why demos exist.
I don't think we changed anything.
You've got the master, right?
Yeah, we're on master. The master was working like 10 minutes before we got on the Hangout.
Don't worry, we have time.
That current festival thing seems to be none.
Yeah.
Are you storing that in cache, maybe in the browser session or something?
No, we're not caching that. I think it's maybe a small change that we made before. I'm just going to try and troubleshoot that really quickly. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit, but we didn't necessarily get overconfident, but we had something that was doing exactly what we wanted to do. So we were adding new features and changing a couple of things. The thing is, none of us really has any background in HTML or any things at the front end. So we were toying with that a lot. And meanwhile, with the back end, we were trying to make everything a bit smoother, right? Because we have to make calls to the Echo Nest API, and we have to make a lot of them, and they have a limit on it, so that means that it's going to be very, very slow. Now, either we could, of course, play a YouTube video in between, but instead we wanted to focus more on shortening the time, and that is something that I feel most of our time really has been going into, because we already had a really good idea at the beginning what we wanted to do, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I was thinking that one of the biggest hurdles was going to be making sure that people could join together into one playlist. And one of the hurdles in that was that you have the user preferences, so all the artists that we get from people's Spotify accounts, but then we put them in a catalog, and the catalog is just like what Dave just said, what you guys have. It's more of an analysis of all that loose information. Now, of course, when you still have all the loose information, all those artists, it's way easier to be flexible with it and to actually do more analysis, go back and forth, and combine other people.
The question is, Tijo, how many tests do you guys have? Because if you are doing a lot of changes, it's usually good to have tests to run and see if you're not breaking things. Yeah, because I remember you asked me about testing things that deal with external services. How did it work?
Chris,
I think you have an API limit, maybe, to any request per day or something like that.
Yeah, I think that for me it's working. Maybe I can screen share.
Sure.
Yeah, we can switch over.
Okay. Give me a sec. Okay. You can see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna create. So. Yeah, we actually had to like figure out the whole GitHub flow, how to work on a team, and which is the better way. And we ended up by just creating branches and doing pull requests when we wanted to push to the master, and the rest of the team could just test on that branch, and if we all approve it, it got passed to master. But clearly, it still doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
Well, Git was very interesting for sure. It's very powerful, but also very dangerous in a sense.
Okay, so here's this is the page where you can choose your parameters, like the stuff that Chris was talking about, the hotness, the danceability, and so you can set all of this. Right, here's my user. My username is pretty ugly because I use Facebook to create my Spotify account. I don't know why. It's just like an ID, and you can't change it. You can add BAMs, artists from here if you want. Like, if you want. I hope it works. So there it is. You can add it. Yeah, this like sets back up.
And so on top of the artists that we're getting from Spotify, you can, if you wanted a specific artist to possibly show up in this new playlist that is going to be generated, you can just search for one using EchoNest API and hopefully find it. And yeah, all those parameters, they're all coming from the EchoNest API. Danceability is, just like how upbeat the music is. Hotness is like the mainstream. So you basically go from really obscure music to like Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez. Energy, I think, correlates to loudness of the music, and possibly also tempo. Variety relates to how many number of unique artists show up in the playlist, whereas adventurousness relates to how many artists show up outside of the cluster of artists that you already have in your catalog. So if you mostly listen to Radiohead, grungy 90s music, turning your adventurousness up makes you get like Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez in your playlist. Yeah, as you can see, when you click generate, we want to add a export button. So that's something we have been making. But once you create a playlist, it's we give you an embed URL, so you can share this with your friends on social media. We have buttons ready in another Git branch right now. And yeah, currently we have the playlist set to a limit of 50 songs, just so we don't stress out the Spotify API too much. There's not necessarily a hard limit to the Spotify API, it's just that you can't, it varies by account, and if you just have a lot of active activity, you'll just get the 429 error, which I think showed up before. So 50 was pretty safe. And yeah, as you can see, take a sample of all the artists that are in the catalog. And since other people can join, they're adding their preferences in, so it's kind of like a meeting of the minds. And together you create this new music experience. And you have this choice of adding old favorites based on the parameters you set, or if you're feeling adventurous, you get completely new artists. So it really expands your music horizon. And given the breadth of music that's available on Spotify, we felt that this was a really cool way of just creating new playlists as before you go on like a road trip, like you and your friends kind of want to listen to something new. It's a cool way of doing that. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much the essence of Spotify.
Nice. Pretty cool.
Great stuff.
I'm gonna try to join. I don't know if that's. No, it's not.
So guys,
It's just a
Uli,
mock-up.
your turn.
Yeah, I was thinking about this ID to join into a festival. I think it would be better if it was a link, URL, so you can share it easier.
Yeah, I think that the code that we ended up having, it feels, it's basically like a URL slug, as like, as if you're building the link to like a blog or something. So we could very well much in the future, if we wanted to share the link, we could do that. And it does seem more intuitive. I think at the time, just like the whole idea of like having this access code that you can share with your friends, it's kind of like a secret. Seemed cool at the time, so we kind of stuck with that. But that's definitely a good idea moving forward.
I have two questions. First of all, I've seen the code that you are using Celery and Redis. Can you tell me for what and which was the reason of that decision? And second one, can you share with us which were the issues you have to deploy the application in, I think you were using DigitalOcean and also in Heroku?
Sure. So, I worked a lot on the Celery stuff, and basically I wanted to use Celery and just, asynchronous technology in general, is because we were making a lot of heavy API calls when we were getting user preferences from Spotify. So, like I said, we were getting artists from followed artists. The user just saves songs from people's playlists, and also their saved tracks, which is kind of like a personal playlist. So just doing all the stuff in sequence made the load time to, say, join a festival or create one kind of long. I remember the first time we did it was about 40 seconds, along with getting other information from PyAppNest, because you need to populate the catalog object that they provide. And that's kind of like pushing a JSON object into this catalog. So it's a lot of things moving at the same time. So we wanted to break a lot of these tasks into individual parts. So like I wrote a function for each of the preference taking portions of Spotify. So there's a function for getting artists from followed artists, artists from saved songs, and artists from playlists. And we want to run those in parallel, so the whole operation would take place in a short time. And also certain database calls, like when we're saving festivals, or we're saving users as contributors to festivals, those could take place behind the scenes without needing to put extra load time for web pages. So we just wanted to make a snappier performance to the website, which is already pretty data intensive.
Cool.
And regarding the other question that you had, what was going on with the DigitalOcean thing? Pretty much, we've worked for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to work with it. I guess the best way in which I could just boil it down is to say that they had a specific way in which they wrote a tutorial in which we could find information everywhere on how to set up like a Flask structure. Now the thing is that we had a bit of a different structure, and it was in one way because we didn't know where we wanted to go in the beginning. In the sense, we didn't know how complex and complicated this was going to be. So we had multiple files instead of everything all just bunched in one file. But the thing is, that also meant that we could, for example, when we were working with GitHub, that we could also more easily work on different parts, considering we're the three of us. But it also meant that right now, yesterday and today, that we had a very difficult time finding good documentation on how to get everything right with the permissions within DigitalOcean, and that had something to do with the WSGI. And that's something to do with Apache, and I don't know exactly where that all went wrong. But what we did notice, and that was something that was, for me at least, something surprising, that the server seemed to be able to get to the first file, so like the first init, And when we went to the first init file, everything seemed to be fine going back to our application, but somewhere in the middle there seemed to be a disconnect, and I still don't know where, because obviously we moved on to trying to get this app in a better state.
Guys, how did you resolve the testing part? Were you able to test something? How many tests do you have? Were you able to mock external services?
But do you mean, did we write a lot of tests for this to figure out how?
Yep.
Yeah, it's like at the beginning we were considering doing like a unit tests or some integration tests, but it came out really hard to know how to test stuff when you're getting information from an API. How do you test those results? So we did a bit of research, but for me it was taking too much time, so I prefer to move on like with the basic code and leave that part for later and then delay.
Yeah, one thing I want to say about that is that actually in the first 2.5, 3 weeks, everything seemed to be very, very clear. Everything seemed to be working just fine. But at least for me, I don't think that I had enough experience knowing that the couple of changes that we wanted to make things faster, to make things easier, more flexible, that those were so foundational that they would change pretty essential things of the application. And then looking back, that is something that I would focus more on next time, just trying to make sure that we get the basis right and that we shouldn't change specific things knowing what could happen afterwards, like things breaking.
Cool. Julian and Ezequiel, any questions?
Yeah, sure. A question. Are you using the Spotify login API, right? Okay. What about the full users? I mean, the user with a paid account. They can download the music at the festival.
I didn't get that of you guys.
I couldn't get that. Could you please repeat that, please?
I think Ezequiel was asking if you are logged in as a paid account, if you can download the music, not just hear the music, but also download the music.
Oh. Yeah, premium accounts have that. Maybe yes knows about the service too much. If you're a premium user in Spotify, you can download the music and it will be available offline.
Yeah, exactly. So my question is about the raw users. If you are considered the premium users, they create a festival, and the question is, they can download the complete festival created with the recommended songs?
I think that would be a great addition. We definitely have been able to, and that was actually funny in the beginning, we immediately just put the playlist into people's accounts, right? So immediately they would follow the playlist. So eventually all three of us had our Spotify accounts just full with testing playlists. So after that we tried to move that back, to get it back a little bit. And the thing is, it's really easy with Spotify, so you can just follow a playlist and you can unfollow it and then follow it back, no problem, it's not lost. And there are definitely widgets that Spotify uses which can indeed do things like that, so that would be a good addition besides what we're doing already, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so and the second question is, in your demo, you show the first you login in Spotify with your Facebook account, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about security? What did you think about the Spotify or your application can have an issue who unveil the who is the user. Can you consider that?
You mean security of the user?
Yeah. So
Right.
you unveil the Facebook account to log in the Spotify account to log in your application. You add 3 nodes and the mid node to attack that point with the DDoS, for example.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, what we do, the thing is with Spotify, you can choose a specific scope, right? And you can go as wide as you can from all, how to say it, all permissions to only viewing permissions for example, the public profile. Now, we choose our scope specifically for viewing, and that's the thing for viewing their artists and viewing their playlist. As we had before, that we immediately had them follow the playlist. That is something that we have tried out, but that's why also one of the reasons why we took it out, because that's way too invasive. We definitely we have a page with about, and we're definitely gonna put disclaimers showing that we are only looking, and then once we've seen it, one snapshot, we're immediately out.
Right, so when the user logs in through OAuth, there's a clear description as they're redirected to the Spotify portal on what scopes are allowed. So, it specifically says, what information we're accessing. And also, when they log in through Facebook, it's only if the user Facebook account to create a Spotify account. And what the OAuth does behind the scenes is that all we get on our end is an access token that allows us to use their information. So we're not actually storing any usernames or passwords or anything like that. And the access token is merely used to activate the Spotify client on our end. And these access tokens expire automatically within, I think, an hour or two. But what we do have is a function that runs before every request on the website so that their session is prolonged. So we use Flask login to store these access tokens in the session cookie, and that's pretty much what's preserving the user whenever they're on the website. And once they log off for a while, the session cookie goes stale, and eventually they'll disappear. But to go back to the point, we're not really storing any important user information, I think. So.
Cool.
Just one tiny addition to that. We are actually storing usernames, and that is just because and obviously we cannot do without, because we are going to let other people play each other's, a lot of people join each other's playlists, each other's festival, right? So they are going to see who their friends are and who their friends are when they're joining, and it will be. And that's something that I think is also appealing of the app, that I can, for example, see that Chris not only invited me, but also Santiago and Andres, for example. And that together we're combining our preferences to see whatever terrible playlist is going to come out of that. But that's pretty much it. And the thing is, we are not going to overload our database either. So every, I think, 48 hours we are clearing the database, but the playlists stay available because they are saved in a Spotify account that we three have together, and that can have up to how many playlists?
I think you have as many playlists as possible.
Yeah, as many as you want.
Yeah, someone.
Right.
Yeah, as an additional implementation detail, festivals are deleted every 48 hours because a catalog object that's being built by the FMS API, that's stored within the API key, and at the moment you can only have a maximum of 1,000 catalog objects at any time. So we felt that 48 hours was a pretty safe time to keep festivals around, as holding on to that room where they could log back in and maybe make another playlist using those preferences. But as CEO said, you can continue using the playlist since it's a Spotify embedded URL, and they save that internally.
All right. So let me ask just one more question, and we can wrap up because we are running out of time. You told me before that you were making changes to your application a few minutes before the presentation. That seems that you couldn't handle the time in the best way during these 3 weeks. Do you think that you have over-engineered your application a little bit, or I mean, which was the issue that took you more time to figure out how to solve?
Yeah, I can comment on that. I think what mistake we did, that we wanted to make the application bigger. Like every time that we came up with an idea, we wanted to implement it. So I think that for next time, we're just gonna like do a bit of schedule of the new features that we're gonna add, and see when to add them and when to like stop and just get a good simple version first, and then keep adding new stuff. But we just wanted to add a bunch of stuff like right now. I think that was
all right. Perfect. Perfect. Awesome.
I think that the issues you had, guys, is something that always happens to all of us. It's like you're trying to take a lot, to chew more, to bite more than what you can chew, you know. It usually happens, and that's when we told you to define a scope that maybe it's smaller, but you can be sure that you can get it done. That's really, really important. And also, I think you have also seen the importance of having tests, right? We always speak about testing, and you have just seen it. The product just broke in your demo, right? It's like if you could have run a test 5 minutes after making that change, and see that something failed, you could have rolled that back, and everything would have gone smoother, right? So nothing, just that comment. Pretty awesome, both products, by the way.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Sure. Congratulations for both teams. Really, really very nice jobs. It's good to see people putting hands-on the code. Congratulations also for that. But please, did you consider TDD, as Santiago says?
TDD, test-driven development. Yeah, right.
Please consider that to start the application before kick off the product. Okay. Build technology solutions is easy. We must use a tool. The complex is to create and build great and solid products. So this is the difference. If you create a technical application, you need only a tool, a toolkit. If you build a product, you need a methodology. So consider, please, study TDD or others method as you like. And TDD is a good option for small teams when the features are good. You have good definitions of the features. That's my little advice. I feel like Dragon Den, the TV show, and really happy to discuss these products, and that's all for me.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ezequiel. Thank you, Julian, for spending this time here with us. Okay, I think we're done, right? This is our last step in the course. This is the last day. I hope you're not so sad, but you know, it was an amazing time with you guys. Hope you had learned a lot from us. And
yeah.
You know, we're always communicating through Slack. If at any time you have any question or suggestions or anything you want to share with us, just go to Slack and write us a message. We are always available. Santiago, anything you want to say?
No, amazing to see what you have built. Really cool. Of course, we will get back to you guys in the following days to wrap things up.
Perfect. So that's it. Thank you very much, guys, and see you. I don't know when. See you in Slack.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot,
people.
guys.
Congratulations to both groups. See you guys.
Thanks,
Good night.
guys.